Last one is Noah Ruby. Hey there, Campea crew. I was so happy watching the Oscars when Into the Spider-Verse won the award. It was easily my favorite movie of 2018. I've been excited about a sequel, but I just read that Bob Persichetti, the director of the movie, just signed on to direct Puss in Boots 2. Why would Sony not lock this guy in to direct the Spider-Man sequel, and why wouldn't he want to do it?
Yeah, so those of you who didn't catch this, because a lot of people was like, wait a minute, time out. Didn't Lord Miller direct Spider-Verse? No, Lord Miller didn't direct the Spider-Verse one. They were producers on it. They did not direct it. The interesting thing about Bob here is that he was actually credited on Puss in Boots as head of story. So he didn't direct the original Puss in Boots, but he was connected to that film. Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse was the first film that he directed. How's that? How's that for coming out of the gate? The first film you direct ends up winning Best Picture, Best Animated Picture at any rate, at the Academy Awards. Not bad. So, question. Why would he jump ship from Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse and go over to do Puss in Boots? I think there's two answers to that. Number one, he has roots with Puss in Boots, as we already kind of pointed out. He was worked in the animation department, and he was a credited head of story on it. So for him, there might be a little bit of a going back home kind of feel to that, which is interesting. Not to mention, I'm down for a Puss in Boots, for another Puss in Boots. I think it's a charming character. I'm down for seeing another one. But I think the second reason he's willing to jump ship from Spider-Man and go over to Puss in Boots is because who says he's jumping ship? Lots of people work on one movie, go off, do some other movies, and then come back for the sequel. We know Sony wants to do another Spider-Man in the Spider-Verse, but who says they're going into production on it tomorrow? They are getting moving. Now, it is totally possible that we may have new director and new directors, because he directed with another person as well. We may get new directors for Spider-Man in the Spider-Verse. Maybe they want to get into the production on this fairly quickly, and maybe they're moving on without him. But until they officially announce that, it's not official. But again, it's just, it could be for him a matter of thinking, hey, it's time to go home. I'm going to go back to where I really made some big strides with my career, this other franchise. If I can do it with Spider-Man and I can do it with another franchise as well, it might position him very, very well in the industry. So, I don't know. Rob, you direct an animated film that, let's say Free Enterprise, that it's not animated, but you direct a movie, Free Enterprise. It's the first major motion picture you direct. And it wins Best Picture at the Oscars. However, you have the opportunity to go and work on a Lord of the Rings film that you had some involvement with before. Do you stick around for Free Enterprise 2, or do you go and direct a new Lord of the Rings film? Or how do you think Bob's mind is working right now in all this? Why do you think this type of move is being made?
Well, I'm looking here at Box Office Mojo, and the worldwide box office of the first Puss in Boots was $554,987,477.
Yep, not
That's
bad.
some cheddar. That's over $500 million.
Not bad. Not bad at all.
Not bad at all. I think a Puss in Boots 2, they want to make this. He just won Best Picture. His quote goes up. So
Yeah.
my boy is going to get some payday. And, when you've won Best Picture, there's only ever one place to go, and that's down. He won Best Picture directing Into the Spider-Verse. So now he's going to go take the challenge of Puss in Boots 2 that he didn't direct. Maybe he's going to be able to be innovative and do something interesting with it. And with that $500 million price tag on the first film and a Best Picture win for Best Animated Film, he's in a position to get paid. And I think that's where it really comes down to. And he probably, because he was in the story department, he probably had a lot of great ideas that didn't get used, because the story departments in animation, come up with 100 ideas for every one idea that we see. And I'll bet he has a great idea to make Puss in Boots 2 out of, and it'll be a slam dunk for him. And he's probably going to make between $500 and $1 billion with the sequel.
And you raise up the question of money here, because there's a principle at work here that I think is also at work in sports. A guy wins MVP on his team, his value suddenly becomes bigger. And we've seen this happen 1,000 times. Other teams are now willing to pay that dude more than his own team may be willing to pay him.
Yeah.
And I think you struck the nail on the head. I think you're also looking at a situation here where he is going to get a much more lucrative offer to go over, and probably with back-end points, to go and direct like a Puss in Boots 2, then Sony may be like, we don't need you. We'll put somebody else in, or like, we'd like to have you back, but we're not willing to pay you as much as probably a lot of other suitors are willing to do it. And you brought up a magic number there. Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse, as much as it was my number 3 favorite movie of the year, let's not over-exaggerate how big of a success it was financially. It made $300-something million at the box office, which was good enough to break even and make a little bit of money. But Puss in Boots, which was like 10 years ago, makes over 500, close to $600 million at the box office. So if they're offering him a much bigger payday, and if they might even offer him points on this thing, it becomes kind of a hard offer to turn down.
There's also something else to consider. I mean,
What's that?
with Into the Spider-Verse, you had Lord Miller, who were very strong producers because
Yes.
they are themselves directors. And he had probably a lot of input that he had to deal with from other people. In addition to getting some fat cheddar to do Puss in Boots 2, he also probably has creative control, which is something he hasn't had in the past. And when you have creative control, look, the most attractive thing for anybody working in Hollywood is a big payday coupled with creative control. So you don't have to deal with too many cooks in the kitchen. And that is the best of both worlds scenario. And I bet he got that from Puss in Boots 2.
Yeah, at least to a degree, at least to some degree. I think you're probably absolutely right.